because we're recording.
Good evening and welcome to the December 21st Board of Directors meeting. We'll start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we will begin with our public input statement read by our Vice Chair.
The first public input session is a 21-minute session with each person having no longer than 3 minutes in which to make a statement. But a second public input session may be held at the end of the meeting if allowed by the board chair. Each speaker will give his/her name, address, and reason for speaking. Public input is designated for district residents, but the board chair may grant non-residents the opportunity to address the board. Statements concerning subject matter that falls under the law regarding executive sessions, for example, matters involving personnel, cannot be made during public input. We, as a community, pledge to treat each other as we wish to be treated. We pledge to seek understanding when there may be disagreement. Regardless of outcomes or opinions, we pledge to move forward with respect. This is a time for comments and/or questions for the board, but please be aware that questions may not be able to be answered at this meeting.
Thank you. Public input?
Get my phone out.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
This one.
No. Talk loud, Holly.
All right, I'll try. Speak, so. How many free passes does the universe have to give us before something really bad happens and we're all looking at each other saying, I never thought anything like this would happen in our town. We hear it every single time that there is a mass shooting. Please do not let that be us. We actually have an opportunity to take advantage of funding to get an RO position at Lebanon Elementary School. I understand the majority of you support the RO and acknowledge that you would figure out how to make it work in your budget. I get it. You have a budget you need to maintain. You can put price tags on technology, HVAC systems, and even administration positions. But I heard 2 school board members on the 7th putting a price tag on human lives. One of whom actually said out loud that she did not think it was necessary to hire an RO for the Lebanon Elementary School because the people of Lebanon are heavily armed and have scanners and would start a phone tree calling to arms a homegrown militia to respond to an emergency at the school. I could not believe my ears. I'm honestly shocked it was said out loud, but I'm glad it was because everyone can go back to the tapes to hear what was said. I would argue that this school board member's reasoning as to why she thinks we do not need an RO in Lebanon might be the very reason why we do. As she admitted, Lebanon is heavily armed. And even the sheriff department explained at the 7th school board meeting how Lebanon's call volume is very high in Lebanon. But I would also like to ask, what can the community do, with your help, of course, to get metal detectors installed at Noble High School? You often hear the argument that metal detectors wouldn't work or make much difference if someone was set on doing something bad. However, metal detectors could have helped in this month's near miss at Noble High School. They would have most likely detected a gun in that student's backpack at the beginning of the day and not at dismissal. It's something. We not only detect weapons, but also send a message to everyone who enters our school. We want to keep our children safe, and our school board cares. My children have come home on many occasions telling me about the lockdown drills our schools have, nonchalantly explaining what they would do and where they would hide if something occurred at their school. I get physically nauseous and choke back tears when I listen to my children normalize it. But that is the world we live in now, isn't it? School shootings and lockdown drills have become normalized in a sense, whether we like it or not. They would normalize metal detectors as well, and it could be one added step in our line of defense. please email me and let us know what we as parents and community members can do to get metal detectors installed at Noble High School. And please, vote yes, for a resource officer at Lebanon for 2020.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well done.
Do we have other public input?
Good evening, Mark Millar from North Berwick. I don't have any children, but recently my nephew attends SAT 60. He was expelled because he didn't have his immunization shots up to date. He's 6 years old. He's got autism. I think this is a right for the parents. Now, as far as the incident happened here, I understand that there was no threats made. And I also, things have changed, and what has changed? When I went to school, we brought our shotguns to school. We showed kids our guns before hunting season. And we never had shootings. We never thought about shootings. So what has changed? I really believe it's the education system that changed. And it's failing. And you guys all know it. And here you are proud as educators. And I think you need to look back at what you're teaching and the effect it's having on our children. Thank you.
Other input?
Hi, I'm Desiree Labby and I teach in the Lebanon schools. I'm speaking today in regards to statements made at the school board meeting on Thursday, December 7th. At this school board meeting, there was a discussion about providing an SRO for the Lebanon schools. In the past few years, MSAD 60 has been taking huge strides toward making our schools as safe as possible from violent critical incidents. This has been thanks in part to the ALICE program. At the December 7th school board meeting, Heather LaFrance spoke about the amount of time it takes police to reach our schools during an emergency, upwards of 20 minutes. According to ALICE, there have been over 250 active shooter incidents since the year 2000. Of all these active shooter incidents, 50% were over in 5 minutes or less. That means police are serving more in a reactionary role rather than responding to an active threat. Having an SRO present in the Lebanon schools is beneficial to both the students and staff for a couple of reasons. Having an SRO present in our buildings would help alleviate the responsibility placed on teachers during a violent critical incident. This would allow teachers to focus on keeping students out of harm's way during an incident. It would not only provide a sense of safety to our schools, it would also help to foster a positive relationship between police and the community, which would hopefully change the perspective and relationship community members have with police. There were concerning remarks made by a member of the school board in regards to the SRO discussion. The remarks were, and I quote, "Everyone around me I know is well armed, and many of them listen to scanners. They are listening to the scanners, they know what's going on. If there is something going on in Lebanon, an active shooter, we have tons of veterans. There would be people pulling out their guns and there would be call trees. It's not necessarily as isolated as you would think," end quote. These remarks were inappropriate and unprofessional. Inviting community members into our schools with weapons during a violent critical incident would be dangerous for the students, staff, and community members present. Armed community members showing up at schools will only cause confusion for police as to who the gunman is, resulting in a potentially dangerous situation for the armed community members. The safety of our students, staff, and community members in Lebanon should always be of utmost importance. Thank you for your time.
My name is Amanda Turner, and I am here in North Berwick. I have 3 children who attend MSAD 60. I'm disgusted right now with the meeting that happened on the 7th. It's an embarrassment. You guys should be completely, utterly embarrassed of yourselves. It's disgusting. Lebanon is part of this district. Stop dissing the community. Do we understand that? Because I'm not seeing that. My children are my everything. And when I send them to school, I expect them to be safe, not come home and tell me things that have gone on. They can't even use the friggin' bathroom in the high school. People are doing drugs, they're fighting, they're selling stuff. That's not okay. And then we have a freaking shooter incident here. What are you guys gonna do to make it safe for these children? I'm embarrassed of Noble, I'm disgusted, and I'm ready to pull my kids from the school district. It's gross.
Other input?
Mark Cahoon, North Berwick. All know me. Made a couple of statements. I made a statement at the last meeting.
Mark, could you speak up a little, please?
Well, I had asked last year for you all to get microphones and we didn't get them. Okay. I will speak up
Thank you.
as long as you guys speak up so we can hear you when you talk. I served in the armed forces. I have never seen a gun levitate off my desk and start shooting. It's people that have mental problems or been bullied that shoot people. Gentlemen, there was no active shooter in the school. I want to correct that young lady, but I did say we need an SRO in Lebanon. A few people I talked to that are friends of mine disagree. I believe we need it. There are funds up in Augusta. You need to approach some of our esteemed senators, go after them funds so we can get. Also, I've been saying for a long time, and I haven't said it to you, but we do need metal detectors at the doors. What she said about what's going on in the bathrooms, I've heard it from other people. There are quite a few families that have pulled their kids out of the school system and are schooling them at home because of the things that are going on in the school. I think our system has failed us. Our mental health system has failed us. Now, this young gentleman brought a stolen gun in his backpack to school. He needs to see a counselor, and a counselor that's not going to help him change his life to anything else but a kid. Okay, he needs some mental help. He could have been bullied. Nobody knows. The truth hasn't come out yet. But our mental health system has failed us. And we need counselors in the school that will provide mental health.
Other public input? No? We will move on to the minutes of December 7th.
Correction. Because we'd held it in Berwick.
Yeah, apologies. Yep, got it.
Motion to approve?
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Opposed?
Abstention.
Abstain.
Gotcha.
Okay. Financial summary.
District
Oh,
feedback.
I'm sorry. I skipped one. District feedback before legislative session.
So we have Tiffany Roberts, who's here. Tiffany has come in a few times right before the legislative session to kind of collect our feedback as you go into the active session. We also have Jeff Adams here as well. So Tiffany, why don't you start? Absolutely. And you need, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Board, thank you. I'm Tiffany Roberts, of South Berwick. I represent House District 149, which is parts of North and South Berwick. Seems like a little bit of a contentious air right now. Representative Levine and I are friends. We work together. So that's what I'd like to do here. And what I want to know from you guys is what you need. I'm just going to go down a list of things that I've heard come up that may or may not be applicable to you. That came up here in Marshwood and different districts, different needs. So I'm wondering about staffing. The minimum salary, the ed tech increase. I've heard about vaping, wondering where we're at with that. Where you are with bus drivers. Solutions you see there. Guidance counselors. Are you lacking there? Are you using SweetSir? Are you doing main care billing? How can we help there? Safety. I heard there might be a need for some grants. So there are bills out there for all of these, but I really would like to hear, as I have in the past, so Austin can say, we've gone down a very long road of finally getting to just putting chronic absenteeism into statute. It's taken 4 years to get it, and now we can use it as an actionable item. It may seem little, but it can help move things forward. So I'm here to listen. Can't promise the moon and the stars, but I can promise I'm going to go back up there and work like I always do and try to get it done. But I need to know kind of what on these hot topics are there for you all, or did I miss something? And I'll write it all down in case I forgot.
So I think you're right. As far, I think that list is representative of where we're at as well. I love the fact that there could be some additional safety grants. We've been hearing that as being true. We're looking for them always. That would be very helpful for us. We do still have shortages of drivers. The process is, right now we're just down 2 drivers, but we've consolidated routes. So being down 2 drivers, we really are down more than that. Because we needed to consolidate routes.
Are you finding one of the draws or the setbacks to recruiting new drivers is that they're not able to file for unemployment when the school year's over?
That's not so much as the process to get licensed takes a very long time. We do have a nice, robust summer program here, so we have a lot of drivers that are driving. Ed tech salaries is certainly a piece for us. We are down quite a few ed techs in all the different buildings.
If I lined up 30 ed techs out in the hall, how many could you hire tomorrow if you had the funds?
10.
And are you finding that during the pandemic, when teachers kind of retired early, that your ed techs all moved up into the teaching positions? And is that part of what's causing this?
That's part of it, yes.
I would say that the other piece of that is that there are more jobs available outside of education that are paying in a comparable or better way with a little less stress that comes with it.
So that if the $50,000 is on the table from last session, it's carried over TBD, that's going to get funded, we don't know. Where would that put you all, knowing that it would get wrapped into the funding formula? I don't know I know like Marshall's at 38%, they're a minimum receiver. I don't believe you guys are.
Right.
So would most of that get absorbed?
Talk a little bit more about
Right.
that. Like in terms of the 50,000, are you talking about minimum salary for teachers?
Yeah, so I don't know where you guys are at right now as far as that, but so
Low.
it's
Yeah.
kind of the backfill of that
Mhm.
that would need to occur.
So for teachers, we're very close to that minimum.
Yeah. Southern Maine in general is probably closer to that,
Around safety and grants, if we can do it. So the vaping, we still have the flavored tobacco ban on the table. It's contentious and I can't even tell you where I stand on it, but I know that our kids shouldn't be doing it. I know my kids shouldn't have been doing it. They did it, but but that could, we're trying to target it more towards the youth. Because adults who want to smoke should be able to smoke. It's fine. We all have our days, but there's talk of wrapping that into a safety grant as well, as far as monitors in the bathroom that can detect that kind of chemicals. But I mean, kids are smart. They're just gonna shove it up their sleeve, I mean, honestly. But, okay, so let's look at grants. Guidance counselors, what's the situation?
I think the situation for us and our struggles are with like Sweetser. We have, schools that are not covered by Sweetser right now. The case, the, social worker has left and they haven't been able to fill that. So we have student,
And just, so not the whole district.
correct, just some of our schools.
So we utilize Sweetser for folks that don't know. We utilize Sweetser services outside of our own social workers. So we do have a few district social workers, but we also utilize Sweetser and SpurWink services to provide extra supports for students that can benefit from it. But it is SpurWink and Sweetser both are having difficulty hiring and being able to provide school-based counselors.
Do you use those positions for specific student needs? Is it targeted or is it just, how does it come, like, how do you decide which ones will be delegated?
So it's typically not students who are like identified through special education. They're typically regular ed students who are just struggling and are usually referred through the guidance department. And then they talk with parents about if you're interested, we can do a school-based session, which means that they can meet with the kiddos during the school day versus having parents have to figure out the appointments and stuff in the afternoon.
So Sweetser is like outside counseling.
It's outside counseling and we just provide space.
Okay, so it's outside counseling done in school.
Exactly.
Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
So the parents would be notified of that?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah. They have to,
They have to bill insurance.
yeah, it's all signed
Maintain.
up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are doing the billing.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't do the billing. Sweetser, this is, yeah.
I think the other thing that for us that is paramount is pre-K.
Yeah.
There was some funding for pre-K. We've been really tight with space. So we weren't able to take some of those initial grants to help with pre-K. And also some of those initial grants didn't necessarily cover a teacher cost. And that's the big, that's one of the bigger expenses of that. So as we continue to look at pre-K, we absolutely have a 100% need for pre-K. We just are grappling with the space and the lack. We have nothing, so we are looking at, like half and a full. We're looking at bringing our child development services, our youngest students in over time. They, with CDS changing, we need to do that. So just the grants to help support and kick off preschool programs.
And I know that's in the works too, and I understand the significance for that. I served on a board for a preschool and childcare center. Right as CDS was starting to make that change, that's when we started moving the older kiddos over to York so that they were,
Right.
That was through my church, but so I understand that money's gonna be an issue this go around. We're trying to.
Yeah.
But it's on the radar. We know it needs to happen. I'd like to see it on a larger scale, but,
Just some concerns that as people wanted me to get on the board. One of the things that's come up a lot is the school and parent partnership. There seems to be a breakdown in the partnership between parents and schools. So I'd be concerned just generally about empowering school without empowering parents. And I'm concerned that some of the legislation seems to be saying, no, we're not going to empower parents to be parents who were the ones who decided to have the children in the first place. I'm concerned about just the constant state school district, right, making decisions and saying, hey, this is the way you got to do it because this is the right way. I'm just not convinced that our country was founded that way. There's a lot of different people that had a lot of different personalities and ideas about how things should run. And, COVID is a really good example of the most recent, probably the biggest blunder. And we as honestly, a government institution, we've not apologized for the wrong we did kids during that time. There's a lot of information out to say that there was a lot of mistakes done and we've not apologized. And I think that for a lot of parents, boy, it'd be nice to do that. from our school district and our legislators, and just understand what we did wrong and admitting we did the best we could, maybe, I don't know. I think that's up for debate. But there's definitely a breakdown in school and parent partnership when it comes to kids. So I don't know what we can do legislatively about that, but that's a really important thing for me. Another one would be,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Point back up. a second.
absolutely,
I hear some strong feelings.
absolutely.
Want to respect that, but I want to be able to draw a clearer line between your concerns and kind of what we're going up into the second session and what specifically the kind of
Thank you.
ask is there.
Yeah,
Because I mean, there's a lot of feelings in this room.
absolutely.
I can feel them, but like,
Absolutely.
actionable items and
Fair.
common sense, I like to work together with people. So that's.
Yeah.
There.
I like the fact that people brought some passion and that that's okay. I actually, I want the dialogue out there, right? When we're saying we can't talk about things, some things might be really painful to hear, right? But we should be able to talk about it, right? We should be able to have those different opinions and be able to have those open air conversations. And I think that's okay, right? I mean, in the end, those conversations need to happen so that hopefully by the end, we get to a place where we go, all right, we're all a little uncomfortable, but we know we've talked about all these things, right? So it was one of those things where I'm not really sure. Actionable, I appreciate you asking that because I don't know exactly what step you can take, but you are in a position of leadership and certainly of influence within our region. And I think just the fact that you're here and that you sent out this email, I think is fantastic. And I applaud that. But saying that, we really need, like, schools and parents, we need to work together. To me, I mean, behaviors, we talked about, I heard people talk about behaviors in schools. That's a parent issue. That's happening in our schools. That's really how I feel, right? If we as a community, as parents, said we're not going to tolerate our kids behaving like this, and in our schools, as a community of schools, we said, yeah, we are not going to tolerate this, and we got really strong and really direct with our kids, right? As parents and as a school district, I do believe we could change this, right? But we need everyone to be on the same page, be willing to have those tough conversations. So I don't know exactly what action, except for being willing to talk about it.
Okay, Rosa.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that you don't feel heard. So what I can say to you is that your Senator Rafferty,
Mhm.
is chair of the Education Committee.
Fantastic.
And I would it seems like there needs to be some more conversation. So if I can email you, if you have a card with you.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
email me, let's set something up. You and I, Senator Rafferty, can kind of sit down and figure out, because it really,
Love it.
I'm getting that you're not feeling heard and
Oh, no, I feel heard.
do that.
Oh, I feel heard. I do. That's not a problem. I do feel heard. Hearing and action takes time, and I know that. So let's talk about an action one. I'm really concerned about the tech use for our kids. And I think, and please, if I'm misallocating this, please tell me. There's been a lot of push from the state to put technology grants, getting more computers in the hands of kids. I don't believe that that's always been the best thing. Obviously, I'm not talking about high school. I think high school technology makes sense. The kids are old enough, certainly. I'm concerned about anything under the age of 13. It's a parent and a school issue. So I am concerned about the amount of tech time that kids spend on screens. COVID increased that dramatically, and we've not come down from it. And it has huge impacts. I mean, a study from the NIH is saying more screen time is more anxiety and more depression. And for the first time in decades, we don't have enough child psychologists for kids to see because there's so much anxiety and depression. And we're blaming that we don't have enough child psychologists. It's not getting to the root cause of the problem. I'd like to see us actually acknowledge that we have an issue with technology and screens.
So are we looking at in the schools and the high schools? Are there cell phone drops in classrooms? Are you guys doing that yet? I think Markwood is. I know that's a good step. It really cuts down. And just that if you break that connection for an hour with a kiddo and a device in front of them,
Mhm.
you break it for longer. So, but on the flip side, I can tell you that, I've been through a couple of virtual conferences, and AI is also here and it's not going away. So these are what kids are going to be using for their college essays and their term papers. And now we have to look and shift towards, it's here, it's open source, it's not going anywhere. How do we, for me, I'm saying how as a state do we provide guidance as to how to teach them how to use it appropriately?
Mhm.
And as a tool, not as a crutch. So it's a double-edged sword.
Mhm.
I have 3 children in a 4-year range that were all in high school at the same time, last one during the pandemic. So I understand.
Okay, and with the mental health, you know, it was a guidance counselor that got my kid to graduate. Otherwise, he wasn't. I mean, open a computer to go to school. No, thank you.
Mhm.
I want to go see my friends.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of give and take everywhere, but it's a rounder conversation.
Mhm.
That we absolutely can have more in depth. I want to make sure that I give space to everybody here.
And it sounds like you've made yourself available to all of us, and we definitely appreciate that.
See a lot of faces I know around here and y'all know, just text me, call me, show up at my house, whatever it is. I mean, not if I'm sleeping, but.
I have a couple questions. We had someone mention hold on, let me put my glasses on. I can't look at you. I'm sorry, and do read at the same time.
I'm adjusting to a contact.
Okay, so same difference, yeah. The US News and World Report, said that Noble was ranked 47th out of 111 schools. That puts us around the average. The statistics at Noble High School, 94% of the students.
What's the date on that?
Oh, you know what?
It was recent. It was
It was very recent.
a month ago.
I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry. I apologize. Science, they're 56%, reading 54%, and mathematics 34%.
What was the reading number?
54. Well, it's good, but it's not great. It's not really what we should be shooting for.
I mean, there's worse.
Right. Oh, I totally understand that. And that's a tragedy as well. But I just wonder, as a legislator and education, what are we looking at to try to, and I understand that there's the Department of Education, but we've got to do some work here. Everybody knows it. I mean, we need to educate these children and what they need to be productive members of society. And I know teachers are doing the best that they can, but is there a notion of possibly getting back to education and the children's emotional thing, taking that back seat instead of the opposite? I've heard from the head of the department in Maine, and I don't know the name, but that they said that the emotional well-being of a child is going to take precedence over the Department of Ed.
Commissioner Macon?
Possibly, like I said, I'm not sure of the name. But that they said that they're going to put the emotional well-being of the children ahead of the academics.
Was this a conversation you had with?
Nope,
public
it's a public statement.
Said in the hearing.
And as a legislator, I would just like to know what can you guys do or put forward to kind of help these kids so that education becomes first and the social well-being. Like we said, we're short on counselors, short on teachers. What's going to come first? You know, what's going to be the impact there of
Again,
that?
this is one of those, when you get a string, you know, and you pull it, and then you're gonna realize we don't have the mental health professionals overall in this state. There's a huge shortage.
Mhm.
So it is falling to the schools by default because that's where the structure is in place, right? Because I know, you know, I myself, I'm not qualified to counsel my children who had, you know, behavioral and, you know, ADHD type problems. At that time, there were more mental health resources. So you start pulling at this and then you get at the teacher shortage. And then you get to the point where your ed techs are now your teachers at your base level. And they're just at your bachelor's levels where, you know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, you had higher up teachers. So, I mean, it's, again, this is a very big discussion to have, and I'm happy to have it too.
It's
What-
complex. I'm from Lebanon.
Okay. I know that educating our children is our priority.
Yes,
Just like there's emotions in this room, there are a lot of emotions in Augusta, and there are a lot of things that make headlines. And there are a lot of things that get misconstrued or but go sit in the classroom for a day and watch the kids learn. You know, ask them, you know, what they learned today. It's the rhetoric that you hear from anywhere in the ethos is not always what's exactly happening. Go to the public hearings. Actually see, and just because you see a public hearing where people show up on each side, I have to see what happens to that bill in the end. Does it get amended? Do the concerns get listened to? So a lot of people see a bill text and they see the title and everybody's fired up. And that bill either dies or it gets amended to hear concerns. So I would just caution, okay? It is becoming harder and harder for people to kind of work together and everybody to hear each other. And to assume that either, perspectives don't have X, Y, or Z as a priority, I don't think is fair without having a conversation. I don't know the context of Commissioner Megan's comment. I will certainly look into it and we'll have, absolutely, because I'd like to know. Because I don't think that overall, that value statement reflects the legislature as a whole.
I don't think it reflects our teachers and our administrators. I don't think it reflects that, but
That's where I caution, taking the soundbite and making it a whole talking point.
But-
It's not helpful to the work you do. I'm sure that these little things are hindering functioning, as a board.
but I do think there is we can see the steps going that way in some places in the schools and elsewhere. And I just truly, I want to back up on his too. Part of that is to almost exclude parents. And I don't want to see that happen because parents are the first teachers of the children. And that is such a big priority. There's so many different views out there. There's so many different, let me use the word religions or whatever that is, that those parents are teaching those kids. And we have to be open to that for everyone. And sometimes the steps that are being taken to protect one class excludes another class from any protections at all. And so I just,
I'd love to
No.
know some context.
yes,
Examples,
absolutely.
'cause I'm
Yeah.
hearing kind of just like.
I'm trying to be broad for a reason, but the point is, yeah,
I'll keep my card and you can.
absolutely. I'd love to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. And. Sorry, that became too.
Yes.
Because I tagged them in here.
I'll talk to you too.
So fine.
No, I know, I'm just here.
And thank you. We appreciate all that you.
Appreciate you being here. Absolutely.
That's what.
I just have one thing. I had heard
I can't see your name, I'm sorry.
Travis Dwyron. I had heard that Governor Mills had recently said that we have a large surplus of money, like over $700 million. My hope is as legislators and senators that you are going to look at dispersing money to help burden the tax base. Whether that is increasing the percentage of the schools to help us with our increase or to help offset some of our increases that we're gonna have, to offset some of the town's increases.
I fully hear you. Focused. That makes sense.
And that's where I'm at with that, right? Like if we have that much of a surplus, we need to look at trying to help the schools who are struggling to get our budgets passed at a very low increase. Help give some of that money back towards us. And the biggest way that I can think of doing that off the top of my head is stop with the unfunded mandates. The unfunded mandates cripple school districts.
Okay, I mean, I can tell you there is a commitment to stay at the 55% funding rate that we have not been at
Mhm.
since it was voted in by the people.
Mhm.
And the same on the town level, like, so there's commitment there. We're keeping that, we're keeping free lunches. We have money set aside. A surplus is there, yes. I don't get to decide what to do with it. Bob does it, Jeff does it. There's an appropriations committee. The governor has a change package. There are bills that go, I mean, it's a whole, there's no like, hey, I want to do this.
But you're a part of that process. You can be a part of that process.
Right.
That's what I'm asking you guys.
Has to
Help
be-
us
There has to be,
be a part of that process.
right, so there has to be an actionable piece of legislation in order to do that, that very specifically outlines how the money is to be dispersed, to whom, the formulas, how much, what the total is. It's not just give money to taxes.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna let, Tom talk about taxes, if that's what you want to talk about. If no one has anything else, I will absolutely hand it off to Tom on the tax.
We would love to hear from,
Okay,
Any of the three of you?
I'll stick around for a while. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goes. And Jeff, I want to tell you, Augusta is very contentious.
I'm not going.
We have a really unique relationship that we don't care who's Republican or Democrat. We're just trying to make our community better. So, and you're way smarter than I am, but I serve on the joint.
Madam Chair, I think there was one more question.
Oh, I'm
sorry.
sorry. I did it. I hadn't.
It went back to Sweetser. With Lily. I'm sorry, no, I think it can be answered here.
Okay.
But with Sweetser, you said, you guys are, we're just providing space,
The space.
nothing else.
Correct.
So
The funding for the counseling comes through.
Funding is from the parents. Either they pay,
So it's-
their insurance pays,
It's through the
main
Sweetser
care.
program. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, that was it.
Thank you.
So anyway, I'm Tom Levine. I'm the state rep for Berwick and Hearts and and my kids went all the way through the SAT 60 district. Peg and I were on the Board of Selectmen, we're on development committees. Her more than I, she's a warrior in that sense. But we have taken on some huge community issues and we've learned that we can be effective. But I just want to stress to you guys that Augusta's a funny place. You don't get what you want out of Augusta. It's a big room. It can be steeped in emotion, like we were earlier, but everybody gets heard. But majority wins. So you get to speak a lot of times, and then that's really your only opportunity to address an issue. But I just want to stress, and I don't want to go over all the pieces that she did. It's really unique what we have here. The three of us and Senator Rafferty, with his long history in we more than care. But to Tiffany's point, we're in the second part of the legislative session. We were just talking about it earlier that only emergency bills are heard. We can't really bring any new stuff to Augusta in this session. So we adjourned, I want to say with 300 bills that were put forward for this session. Yeah. Overall, we had 2,500. And I will tell you, serving on the taxation committee, not entertaining whatsoever. It's a lot of math. Everybody wants to get rid of the sales tax. Everybody wants to get rid of the income tax. And I want to tell you that probably 60% of the things that we've heard are based on those two things. You know, it goes off into the weeds a little bit where, sales tax on prescriptions, does that carry over in the veterinary? I think it should. There's a lot of talk about weed up in Augusta. More than we really ever want to talk about. But we did some effective things. I think we voted taking some of the sales tax, a percentage, 12%, I think it was, to go to recovery centers. There's a dotted line there. Sure, nobody's ever died from smoking weed, but there is a dotted line. It can, if you have, addictive personalities, you may want to increase whatever makes you feel good. So that's how you get there. But the majority of taxation is people proposing the elimination of income tax and the elimination of sales tax. And everybody always brings up New Hampshire. And I probably have said it 20 times. It's, it costs you $12 to get your car inspected in Maine. It costs you $85 in New Hampshire. They're just pulling out of a different pocket.
the math is the same. All the states, they basically cost the same amount to rent. So,
That property tax goes to the state of municipality.
right. And so we're working, there was the senior property tax thing. It wasn't sustainable. The first year, the expense to the state was 3 million. The second year was 24 million. And then it went to 75. We had to stop the bleeding. It was a bad program. Great for the seniors, and the seniors loved it. I am currently a senior. And I was in the room when we made the program go away. It made me a little sad. It was the only good thing about turning 65, actually. But we're working on other elements that are sustainable and are meaningful. And as Tiffany stated, Jonathan, we're in a place in this session where if something is actionable, we will absolutely group together. But all the talking, the speeches, that was last session. And it went on till 3 or 4, 7 in the morning sometimes. I wondered why I ran quite a few times, actually. Wondered who was going to let my dog out. But, we're getting there. And I just think that we're in a special place where we all have grown up around here, basically. We can help, but we're also limited. Sometimes we just get to stand up and talk. And then when you're done, you're waiting for an answer, but everybody just moves on to the next issue. Like, I think I did my job today. So it's a tough place to be, but you are in a great spot, better than I've seen around the state. There's far too much energy spent on who's a Democrat, who's a Republican. We have the luxury of more often than not meeting in the middle, which is where the effective place is. So, taxation, it's not exciting. It's a myriad of issues. It's lobstermen. They want an exclusion on the sales tax for their boats. But it's already in the program. It's just at the end, just like we all do our taxes. It's just so there's a lot of energy spent on these exclusions, farm, timber, those industries.
Excuse me.
I actually feel the worst for the farmers when I'm sitting up in Augusta because in a swipe of a pen, the next day, a farm that's been in a family for centuries, they just auctioned off 700 head of cattle and they're selling their land to a developer. So it may feel like there's enough people in Augusta to take care of all the issues, but it is overwhelming. It's just absolutely exhausting. But we retreat back to our towns, and that's where we can be effective. And we're all very reachable. So let us help you, but please make it something we can do so we're not frustrating you. We have little for this session. All right, I was wrong.
You're talking to the veteran.
Yeah, I know. She had a little more time.
There's always a way to do something.
There is. We stand up, we stamp our feet, but what committee are you on?
State and local. Yeah. That's the only one. But that's the committee.
That's a committee?
That's what it's called.
Like the school.
A lot of stuff comes up through us.
Oh, okay.
Anything from salaries to.
So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Kind of a new guy in a sense. It was very eye-opening this last session.
Thank you. Any questions?
Anything else? No? Do you want to?
Yeah.
Adams?
I'm curious what state and local is.
Representative Adams, I know a lot of you guys and a lot of you guys and Ball there and Noble, president of the football
daycare. I coached football over here for years, baseball, everything. So a lot of years I know, known over many years. This is my first term as representative. I'm out of Acton and Lebanon. I was put on state and local this year. So state and local handles a lot of just what it says, state and local issues. A lot of stuff we see is like CBA type stuff. We do see salaries, positions. Now they're talking about the money. One of the things that came before our committee, which I was adamantly against, they wanted to add a bunch of new positions to the budget, but they only have around like 40% capacity of ones they already have. So, but what happens with that money if they don't fill those positions? It goes back to the general. That money, in my opinion, could be spent a little better for our community. I mean, honestly, to come down this way. So that, that was the main focus on our committee was, just state and local issues. Representative Levine and Roberts are correct. We're in a lot better shape than a lot of places up there. We don't have a lot of the same problems. We do see several. We're talking about the education bill. About what Macon said. Macon did say that they were going to do put an emphasis on DEI, and I did put a bill in. I was actually the freshman representative that put in over 20 bills, all mostly consistent with bills. So 18 got through that they got heard. Many were education bills. And, so that's what, they were talking about. One of my bills were to focus on academics versus DEI. And I think that's very important. We see that just based on the numbers we see up here. That was one of the main things. Joe Rafferty, Senator Rafferty is on the Education Committee, is the chairman for that. I went before his board, I think 5 separate times. Didn't get a single bill out of committee. But the ideas are out there. There's a lot of, like Representative Levine was saying, there's a lot of two-step. I personally think, and this is my opinion, and everybody's got one, I think parents should be ultimately involved in every decision that they have, period. Because that's just the way I feel about it. So, we got a lot of those. There are carryovers coming up this year. I think the focus is going to be on, as much as I hate to say with what just recently happened, I think it's going to be a lot of gun control focused stuff that's going to pop up. And I think, like the good Representative Roberts said, we need to focus on mental health facilities. We closed a lot of them in the state. We don't have them. It causes a lot of problems. And of course, with the shop mandate, we lost a lot of caretakers as well. Hopefully that gets reversed so we can actually get some people back. But I am very available. I am on the State House page. I have a separate Facebook page. Many get hold of me. I will return a phone call to anybody, anytime. And got any questions for me? I'll be more than happy to answer them. Yep. No question? No.
No. Sorry.
And thank you. I'm glad that you are all making yourself accessible. We appreciate it.
Keep being tonight.
I'm the new guy. Like I said, I was told to get with the program. I said, my program's Acton and Lebanon. That's where we live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Next on the agenda is financial summary.
Denise is walking up.
You access it. Check them out there.
Oh, I've got it.
Good evening. I'm doing this management. You all have a copy of the financial summary through November 23. Again, things are progressing as expected. I don't have any particular concerns that have risen other than the ones I've mentioned previously. We have spent approximately 2/3 of our athletic transportation budget. A lot of that is due to private charter buses we need because we don't have enough drivers to work. And let's see, last year at this time, we had about 14% of the budget revenue to this year's 12%, but it's tracking pretty much along similar lines. So I don't know if you have any questions.
You feel good, we feel good usually. If you say, it, but no, the figures are, like you said, they're running pretty true to what they've done most years.
Yes, and there are always some things that are higher and lower, but when you take that higher level look, we're looking pretty on target.
Have you heard anything further about CMP and the raising rate?
No, and I don't know. We all heard that the residential rates were taking a significant decrease starting in January. We haven't heard the same about commercial accounts, but I'm hoping that it's just the next step that will follow. But we also have had a very warm winter so far. So we'll see as the temperatures getting colder, we'll see how that election tracks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. You're welcome.
Employment?
Okay, so we have two employment documents that both of them. This one is Lauren Jones, and Lauren is requesting short-term leave of absence after the birth of her child. So she's going to go out on maternity leave, similar to the one we had the last meeting, and she wants to extend that out. So she is an occupational therapist. She's working in North Berwick. Let me see, Knowlton School and the middle school. And so we do have coverage for her during that time. And if she extends that time, if you grant that leave of absence, we have coverage for her.
A motion to approve. Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay, the next one is Glenn Hogue. Glenn is currently a teacher at MHA, and Glenn has been given a different opportunity that he'd like to explore. So he is resigning from his position. He's been in the district, how long would you say?
5 years.
Yeah, yep. So we just need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor? Superintendent update.
Okay, a couple updates. First of all, just for those in the audience that came up and just talked about, like metal detectors and other things that we're doing, we always are exploring different ways that we can keep, our students as safe as we possibly can. So we're heading into our budget season. We're looking, at all of those areas that we can, to get guidance in and information and for best practices and what's the safest. So I just wanted to just put that on everybody's radar, that's certainly, something we're considering to do, to look at those pieces. So that's just the first part of that. A couple other updates that I wanted to give. First of all, I wanted to just publicly acknowledge our high school staff and our high school administrators for doing such a very, very thorough, stellar job, and our students. So that's that piece.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
The metal detectors,
Yes.
are we considering just the high school, or are we considering some of the other schools as well? Because if you have an intruder, a detector might be good on any school.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's something that's also in the consideration.
So in general terms, when we look at safety, we look at everything across the district. So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Just a quick update, as we were taking tours of all the buildings earlier this year, there were some classrooms that some of you noted that didn't have flags up. So the flags have been placed in all the classrooms. Let's see. And then just a quick update on our Excel position that we had open. We had a parent come in last meeting and just ask that we have a speedy timeframe for that. So we do have somebody who was hired as a long-term sub and is working with the transition with Eileen Sahagian, and that will take effect right when we get back from break. And because it's a long-term sub position, it will be re-advertised in the spring. So those are superintendent updates.
Okay. Other.
I have none.
I have one. Can we, as a district,
I see that we have been lacking on our flag etiquette in front of our buildings. More frequently than not, I find the flag at half staff when it should be at full staff, or at full staff when it should be at half staff. There are sites available.
There are.
The American flag is one that we should be following, and whoever that person needs to be at each school should be following. Because currently the high school flag is at half staff and it's supposed to be at full staff, because that was, to my knowledge, only supposed to be at half staff for Tuesday.
Any other?
Just a question about a student representative.
Oh, good question.
Still working on the student representative.
Okay.
AG's working on it.
And I do have another, and I start with an apology. Typically, when I get a request from board members for things to be brought up, when I email or forward that email to Sue and Audra, I typically CC you guys, and I did not. So there were some areas that Josh was requesting data for, like NWA, it matching with the Common Core. I will CC that to you, forward that to you, but it is on their radar, and Audra and Sue are aware. So I apologize for not CCing you. I sometimes forget that. Sorry.
Get all kinds of emails.
Yeah. So, public input.
I have just a couple
Sorry, I'm sorry.
to ask some questions on. We had a math team meet. How did it do? Do you know?
The math team,
Yeah,
math,
it was on the agenda for the, what was coming up, for the events. And on 12/14, it said it was a math meet, and I was just wondering.
I don't know.
sorry.
Okay, and how about the Hussey and Knowlton movie night?
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
That was awesome.
And then we had the Winter Choral, I didn't say that right, Winter Choral Concert for 8 through 12.
Yes, we've had a lot of concerts and we continue to have a lot of concerts. So they're all,
Some coming up, or?
there are
One
some,
more
there's tomorrow. Yeah.
At
there
school
is.
during the
Yes.
school day.
Which school?
North
Probably
Berwick.
North Berwick Elementary.
North Fork. Thank you.
Heather?
So can I respond?
I believe so.
Okay. So I realized that there were people that got upset at my comments. And Sheriff?
Yeah,
King
sure, King, yep.
got up and shined a spotlight on Lebanon and expressed how absolutely isolated we are and vulnerable. And everything he said, number one, should not have been on video. Or he should have chosen his words better than he did. But to say that that's just like shining a spotlight. Maybe nobody ever sees the video. Maybe a lot of people see the video. Obviously, some people saw the video because you're here tonight. You can be mad at me all you want to. I am going to defend my town.
Any other? Public input.
Can I just ask a question about that? What did Sheriff King say that he shouldn't have said?
That it was response time, that the elementary schools are absolutely isolated and vulnerable. He could have put that more diplomatically, because it just sounds like there's like nobody around and there's never going to be, we don't know when somebody's going to go half-cocked. We don't. And nobody knows how I feel about an SRO or not. I was trying to get to the bottom of the questions when I was asking him prices and stuff. But it raised my hackles as soon as he said it. It was like, do you want to put a neon light on the schools or what? Because that's exactly how it hit me. I graduated. What did I bring in tonight? My yearbook from Columbine High School. I graduated from Columbine High School. So I'm a little bit sensitive about those kinds of things. And he used that as an example. There's been plenty of shootings, Connecticut. any of them. It doesn't always have to go back to Columbine. So that's my comments.
Public input?
Get to time these two.
I was at the school board meeting when Jerry mentioned things that she said. I took it as she was giving examples or just things that we could be looking at. For instance, there are officers in school shootings that cower, they hid. We should look at veterans. They're highly skilled, and you should be looking more than one. If you got a west wing, you got a right wing, and something happens in the west, but they're over in the right, you ain't gonna get there in time. I think what she's saying about Ting that said they're vulnerable, you never show your weakness because you're inviting problems. That's a military tactic. That's something you should all know. That's inviting problems with your own home. I like, Travis, what you said about budget, 165 million. Bring it to back to the taxpayers, helping the school out. I think that was a really good comment. I like the fact that you mentioned the flag. Thank you very much for that. I think what somebody here said about social emotional learning, Victoria was absolutely right. I heard that. Janet Mills announced the new person in charge of our education system. That he or she said that it was going to take precedence over our regular curriculums. I think that's wrong, and it's going in the wrong direction. And we saw that with UPenn, we saw that with Harvard. Let's kill the Jews from the river to the sea. Is that what we're teaching in school? Look at some of the books you have in here. Critical race theory. Okay, we need to get back to math, science, education. You know, it's not your job to teach these kids what, if they're supposed to be girl or boy. That's the parents. We shouldn't even be involved in that. That's opening Pandora's box, and we're seeing that in all over the world right now. We're in chaos. As far as budgets, you should be looking at your budgets because Goldman and Sachs, they realize they have unrealized losses, $650 billion. Matter of fact, they're in such sad shape. They sold off 800 million ounces, leased off 800 million ounces of silver. In March, silver was at $30 an ounce, it's now down to 22. Now, what did that do for Goldman Sachs? For every $1 that ounce goes up, they have to pay $800 million.
15
How are we
seconds.
going to recover from this? The banks are going to fail. Life as you know it's going to change very radical here because of the agenda we're pushing. Government's too big. We need to set it down.
And thank you. That is your 3 minutes, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Public input?
You can speak twice.
Oh, really? Everything that the sheriff said was appropriate and already public knowledge. And I also would argue that what you said at that meeting also shined a bright spotlight on Lebanon that some may not have known how well and heavily armed they are, which also made people more concerned than they would. But now that we know how heavily armed Lebanon is and secluded, and all of the high call volume, that's more opportunity for someone with a mental illness or whatever the case may be, putting a gun in their backpack and bringing it into the school. Again, I just want to reiterate, I hope we seriously look at metal detectors. I appreciate your comments because now I know. And the sheriff's comments were already public knowledge and totally appropriate.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Excuse me. I want to back up what school board member Basco said. I was here in person at the December 7th meeting. It was not about getting a militia. If anybody knows more, they can talk to her. I spoke to her one-on-one. It was a concerned citizens group, whether it be fathers, grandfathers, just like the people in this room tonight. It's concerned citizens, parents that would want to go there, families that want to go there to help protect. Even if we have an SRO officer, that's one person in that whole building. That person's going to need help. And at that last meeting, there was discussion. It could still take 15 to 20 minutes for York County sheriffs to get there. That SRO officer is going to need help before then. So we can be here now, let those families be there to help them. With that being said, I'll move on. 2 other quick things. I know usually this is for input, not questions. You can get back to me on this later. Normally there's agendas passed out. I didn't get one tonight. I don't know if I should just get that online or if there's any available. They're really nice to have. My last thing is, I'm getting back to conversation earlier. There was talk of 10 ed techs that were needed. I was curious as to how many of those ed techs that are needed currently are for positions that are not for behavioral health.
How?
Okay, because I'm an ed tech in a BTP and I've been watching. And most of what I see out there and in surrounding school districts are all for BHP positions. Seeing very little for academic ed techs.
Other input?
Oh, actually.
If there's no more public input, we need to, our next item agenda is executive session 1 MRSA 405-6D labor contract negotiation. So we
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
We're going to say that no more public session will occur.
And then after our executive session, we will be shutting down the,
Come back to it.
No, yeah.
Okay.
And the, yeah.
and he's gonna